Hi, my name is Gary Sanders. Welcome to Live and Local. The show tonight is the Asian Tsunami, the backstory. We've heard a great deal and read a great deal since the December 26th disaster, most of it focusing on the incredibly horrible loss of life and destruction of villages and other property. And tonight, I would like to talk a little bit more about what these countries were like before this, the political, social, economic situations in these countries that most Americans know nothing about, possibly even just heard of for the first time with the tsunami. And tonight we're joined, I'm very happy to say, 4 guests. Paul Greenough, who's a professor at the university and was in Sri Lanka at the time of the tsunami. Nataya from Thailand, Yayuk from Indonesia, and Chaminda from Sri Lanka. Okay, let's start off. First of all, the way I found out about, that we had people in this campus who were from these countries who had family and friends affected was from reading an article about you, Paul, in the newspaper. What were you doing there?
I was in Sri Lanka with a group of members of the Global Health Studies program. We were doing some research on immunization in the public health system in Sri Lanka. We had a series of interviews planned, which had been arranged for weeks in advance. We had arrived on the 22nd, and I departed on January 4th. And in the middle of this research effort, suddenly this event broke.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Chaminda, where in Sri Lanka are you from, and especially relative to where the tsunami hit?
Well, I am from the western part. I'm from Colombo, the capital city of Sri Lanka. And Colombo lies on the western coast, and which is one of the least affected areas by this tsunami. Tsunami, for the most part, came from the eastern side of Sri Lanka and completely damaged the eastern and southern coasts and some parts of the western coast as well.
Mm-hmm. Now, tell us a little about Sri Lanka because, in your experience, do you think most Americans, or at least the ones you've met here, do they know anything about Sri Lanka?
Well, sometimes I have come across people in this part of the world who have never heard of Sri Lanka. Mm-hmm. They have asked me where Sri Lanka is, and they didn't know it as another country. But now, after the tsunami, things have changed a lot. Now, Sri Lanka is an island. It's a small island just south of India, in South Asia. In size, it's about 25,000 square miles, which is, if I'm correct, is the size, roughly the size of West Virginia.
Yeah, actually, I looked that up in the almanac. That's almost exactly. It's about half the size of Iowa.
Yes, yes. And it's, what else I should say, about the ethnic groups. There are like mainly 2 ethnic groups, Sinhalese and Tamil. Sinhalese about 70% and Tamil about 18 to 20%.
Now, I've heard about the Tamils. Mm-hmm. That there's a civil war there.
Yes.
Which, again, I don't think, people here know too much about. What is that all about?
Well, the war has been going on for about 20 years now. But the beginning of the issue, the ethnic issue, of all these issues has a history going way back to 1940s. The time Sri Lanka was a part of British Empire.
It was called Ceylon then, right?
Yes, it was called Ceylon. And the British government adopted a policy of divide and rule for the most part, and they, for the most part, gave employment and educational opportunities to the minorities. But after independence, things changed, and minorities lost some of the extra privileges that they were enjoying at that time. And that created some resentment in their minds. And both Tamil and Sinhala politicians throughout tried to make advantage out of these issues. And later, it turned out to be a terrorist problem. Various fractions fueled the problem, and it started as a political problem, but it turned out to be a terrorist problem. Terrorist groups, mainly the LTT right now, is...
Those are the Tamils, right?
Yes.
Tamil
yes.
Tigers.
One thing I should mention, that all the Tamils are not terrorists. All the Tamils are not members of the LTTE. And, but LTT is trying to carve out a separate country from the northern and eastern parts of Sri Lanka.
Now, I didn't ask you this beforehand, but what do you think about that? Do you think they should have an independent country?
I don't think they should have an independent country at all, and there's no room for that.
Well, what's going to happen? I mean, are they... how long? This war has been going on for quite some time.
Yes, right? Yes. And it's not that they are going to be satisfied with the north and eastern parts, because the resources in the northern and eastern parts are limited. Most of the resources, even water, are more available in the southern parts. And their next goal is to expand their boundaries to south. That is one part. And again, you have to keep in mind that southern India is also like predominantly Tamil, and they want to expand their country into South India as well, and which is going to destabilize India as well.
Now, are the Tamils of a different religion?
Well, most of the Tamils are Hindus, and there's a small percentage of Tamils who are Christians as well. And there are some Sinhalese, which is a majority, but a small fraction of Sinhalese are also Christians.
Can I?
Go ahead, jump in anytime, any of you.
I have to jump in here. I recognize this story, this narrative, but it's what I would call a worst-case scenario from the perspective of the government and from a Sinhalese point of view. When we were there, we crossed into the Tamil-held areas. You were saying earlier that they want to create a country. In many respects, they already have created a country. When you cross through the frontier, there are numerous checkpoints from one side to the other. You come into a tiger-controlled area in which people are wearing different uniforms. The police wear different uniforms. The army wears different uniforms. All the signs on buildings are pasted Tamil Elam. They don't say Sri Lanka any longer.
What does that mean, Tamil?
Tamil country.
Tamil
country of the Tamils. They look at your passport and your documents. I've crossed during the Cold War into Czechoslovakia from Germany. I know what that's like. This was as rigorous an inspection, very, very careful searches. I mean, you had the definite feeling that you were moving, in many respects, into another country.
Well, they are trying to just create the feeling in the whole world that they have already created a country of their own and trying to gain recognition. But I don't think reality is that there are all these people who are still in these so-called these guerrilla-controlled areas are still fed by the Sri Lankan government. Food is provided by the Sri Lankan government. Medical facilities are provided by the Sri Lankan government. Health facilities are provided by the Sri Lankan government. But it's true that they have created their own police force. They have created their own legal system, which has not been recognized by anybody else in the world. But they are still trying to build the impression that they are capable of doing that.
By the way, what brought you here to Iowa?
Well, I am in the chemistry program, and I am studying for my PhD in chemistry.
Okay, and do you hope to go back to Sri Lanka?
Yes, sooner or later.
Okay, and Yayuk,
Yes.
you are from Indonesia. Where in
Yes.
Indonesia are you from?
I'm from East Java.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, actually, I'm teaching in University of Jember in East Java. Yeah. So I work for the government
Teaching
in college. Yeah.
teaching in a college
Mhm.
in Indonesia.
In Indonesia.
Mm-hmm. And what's your field here?
My field here is secondary social studies education mixed with social science.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm doing right now is writing my dissertation with the topic developing democratic and historical thinking through music.
Mm-hmm.
Instruction.
Uh-huh.
Because
And
I want to be involved.
Where are you working right now?
It's hard.
If you don't want
Yeah.
to talk about it, it's okay.
Well, actually, I want to work in. I work in on campus actually, but this semester I work in food service. But last time I worked with Professor Davies and also Professor Poretis. And
So you're washing dishes at Burge Hall, is that right?
yeah, well, I rotate actually.
And
Yeah.
you were a college teacher in Indonesia.
Yes.
Well, I certainly hope that whoever's watching that's connected with the university can do something about getting you, a position that's befitting your education and status in Indonesia. I understand there's some problems because visa requirements keep you to work on campus, but I am hopeful.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah. And now, did you have? I know that the tsunami hit
Yes.
Aceh province,
Yeah.
which is not where you're from.
No, it's far away.
Yeah. About how far?
Well, so it's in another island. So it's how far? So like from here to I would say to LA, Los Angeles. So,
Oh, really?
yeah. So
Do you think
it's very-
people here have any concept of how big Indonesia is?
people here?
Population, geography, anything? The people that you come in contact. How long have you been in Iowa City?
For almost 9 years.
Do you think people here have any concept about Indonesia? You can say honestly. I mean, if they do or not.
Yeah, not all of them though. Yeah, maybe because of the tsunami, and then a lot of people like got access to everything to read more about Indonesia. But before that, I don't think so that they know a lot about Indonesia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think? Why don't you tell us a little about the Civil War there? That again, people probably aren't aware of.
Okay. You mean Aceh?
Aceh, yeah.
Aceh province. Actually, they don't fight people, other people. Actually, they just fight with the government.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the government is not people like Acehnese and other ethnic groups, something like that. No, I don't think so. They just don't like Indonesian government.
Why is that?
Maybe I don't know for sure, but well, because Indonesia is composed of many ethnic groups, and maybe also Indonesian government can't manage those all ethnic groups like give them like equal opportunity for every ethnic groups. That's of course it's hard to get those to embrace all ethnic groups. That's a tough job.
I know you're with the government, right? You're an employee of the government.
Yes.
So I know you probably don't want to speak ill of it. But is part of it the fact that Aceh has oil? Aceh province has oil?
Yes. Oil everywhere in Indonesia.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we are like OPEC, one of the OPEC's country.
Right, one of the
Yeah.
OPEC countries, yeah. And that maybe they don't feel like they're getting enough benefits from having all this wealth that it maybe
Part
gives.
of it, yeah. So it's well, if we talk about ethnic conflict, it's about maybe one part of it is about competition of resources.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like you said oil. Yeah, the local people don't get the most. That makes the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so not only that, it's also other resources, education.
Mm-hmm.
Education maybe is only is it perception or not? Like people in Java get more education than other ethnic groups, but basically why Java is more densely populated island, just because not only Javanese, other people from other islands or province just go to Java to get better opportunity.
Are the rebels in Aceh
Yes.
more Muslim fundamentalist than the rest of the nation, which is of course Muslim, but are they more fundamentalist than
I would not say fundamentalist. I would say devout Muslims.
devout?
Yeah, devout Muslims, not fundamentalists.
Okay.
Well, if you see, you know Indonesian history, okay? Like Javanese Muslims is far different from Acehese Muslim.
So different islands,
Yeah.
different provinces,
Yes.
there's different kinds of Muslims.
Yes, like Javanese Muslims, Muslim moderate. They always accept new ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the first religion, is came to Java is Hindus.
The first people that came to Java were Hindus.
Hindus
Mm-hmm.
through trade,
Mm-hmm.
and then that's why there is a Prambanan Borobudur, Prambanan temples
Mm-hmm.
up to now, and then Buddhism came to Java. It was Indonesia, but mainly in Java.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then they are still, convert to Buddhism, and then the other religion is the current one is the 13th century is Islam, and through trade, through trade become
Through what?
to trade,
Threat.
no trading,
Oh, trade.
trading,
Trade,
to
I'm
trade.
Gary, I know you're probing this business about religious differences among Muslim groups and so on, and in Sri Lanka also there is this split between Buddhists and Hindu Tamils. It's clear that those differences exist, but I would pay more attention to what both of them managed to say about another kind of resources. It's not even oil, it has to do with opportunity created by education. You mentioned that in the north, you said that there would be an expansionist program of the Tamil Tigers
Yes.
because they have no resources. And it's true, the north is a rather barren place compared with the rest of the country. But one thing that Tamils in the north do talk about is their prowess in education, that this is what they generate in Jaffna, is boys and girls who succeed in national examinations and through that have a route into civil service, into advanced education, foreign education, like you. These opportunities for higher study and for international study opportunities are in some ways more prized than access to oil revenues. Oil revenues are always going to be distributed through market mechanisms, but for individuals in families competing in the educational system and succeeding, this is a very treasured thing. And when it's cut off, and this is what the Tamils in the north felt, that they were being systematically denied through administrative measures the success that their boys and girls would otherwise have earned and had earned historically in national competitions and access to higher education. And I think this is also true in Aceh. It's not exactly the oil revenues. I don't think people rise and revolt against the government by saying they don't give us the oil revenue. They rise and revolt when they feel that there's no future in a particular family. You're blocked. You have no access to higher secondary education, collegiate education, university education, all the benefits that flow.
Yeah.
People know that's the route up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, before we leave the Indonesia situation, is the United States government, are you aware, trying to hook up with the Indonesian government and maybe make the rebels in Aceh somehow portray them as being allied with Al-Qaeda and help the Indonesian government to suppress this revolt?
No,
No.
I don't think so. Not this current government though.
Not the current government.
No, No, I
Because
don't
I
think
read
so.
just in the paper today that Deputy Secretary of Defense Wolfowitz is there
Yes.
meeting with your government's leaders, possibly to talk about a more permanent military presence there after the aid is distributed. Have you heard anything about that?
Yes, I had Mr. Paul Popo's comment on how whether it is a good chance for the rebels, uh, to work together with Indonesian government to make a better,
Mm-hmm.
better situation, not getting worse. No, just better. It's in be part of Indonesia.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Nataya, we haven't gotten to you yet. You're from Thailand.
Yep.
And you here studying.
I graduated last year, 2003 with BA in Global Study
Mm-hmm.
and minor in Business
And-
International
And
Business.
are you from a part of Thailand that was affected, or do you have any?
No, my
family?
family lives in central area,
Mhm.
but it's still really hard for us or people back home, to deal with this kind of situation because for Thai people, we have in all our life have never seen earthquake or this kind of tsunami, so this kind of big disaster. So
Mhm.
it's really, really difficult to deal. But
Do you think, Nataya, that it would be such a big deal in the press in this country if it weren't a lot of Americans or Western Europeans that were killed? Do you think that's made it even more, quote, newsworthy here?
I don't have the answer for that question. I mean, I try. You asked me this question yesterday too, and I trying to think, but I can't come up with the answer.
Mhm.
But who get out from this disaster? But I can. What I like to think of, as much as we hate for this disaster to happen, but we got a lot of good things from it. Bad thing happened, but here we are in Iowa City. I become, friends of these guys. I get to know them. I get to work with
Exactly.
them and with the University of Iowa
Mhm.
to organize a vigil this coming
Thursday night,
Right.
20th.
And we help each other to organize a fundraiser. So in a way, it's a big disaster, and it's really, unfortunate for a lot of people.
Mhm.
But
The places that were affected in Thailand, they were mostly resort areas, right?
right,
Where many young Thai people came to work,
a lot of tourists.
including young women who came from villages to work as.
That's true for like every part of Thailand. I mean, like you have a lot of young people looking for job, and like you mentioned, a lot of Isan area, which is northeast section, of Thailand, northeastern. Most of the families are pretty poor, and a lot of part in Thailand, and often the children will move to or go to like Bangkok or other popular tourist attraction locations so they can find some work
Including
services.
prostitution.
Yeah.
That
But that
the-
has been going on like since Vietnam War, where
Right.
a lot of American, a lot of Western travel to Thailand, stop at Thailand, and before they can go to war or after war, they're located in Thailand, that kind of thing. So
Yes, that's one of the offshoots of tourism and a Western presence in these countries. Wouldn't you say, Paul?
One of the questions I thought behind your question before was why there was so much interest. And it seems to me part of the interest is generated by the loss of European and Western lives, because a lot of people think, well, there but for the grace of God. I can imagine myself vacationing in Pattaya or in Hambantota or one of these resort spots in these very, very beautiful countries. But behind that, there's another question. Why did so many people altogether die? Why was the death toll so high? I think that's a very interesting question. And it has to go, it seems to me, you have to refer back to the relocation of economic life in these countries from the interiors to the coastlines. This is something that's been going on for about 100 years. all around the Bay of Bengal and good portions of the Indian Ocean further to the east down into Malaya and Indonesia, populations have moved into coastal areas which in the historic past never would have been occupied because there were storm surges and typhoons and cyclones in those regions that have made them
So
basically
for thousands of years, these places
absolutely.
have not been inhabited.
They've been very
Sparsely inhabited.
consciously avoided. This is certainly true in Bangladesh. I know this for a fact. I mean, the whole active delta of Bangladesh had been avoided. Population growth and the relocation of economic life toward the coast has taken place, and it's just been intensified by the tourist economy.
So the tourism.
Europeans coming from cold climates are very strongly attracted to warm, sunny seashore sites. And an amazing proportion of the Thai, the Indonesian, and the Sri Lankan economy has now moved down to the shores. And the infrastructure has moved there, and commercial sex works has moved there, just as you say. The train system and the road system is now reoriented to it. If you look at a map of Sri Lanka, you find there's a road that goes all the way around Sri Lanka. It's never more than 5 kilometers from the shore, and often it's only 50 meters from the shore.
So it's not only the overt influence of, let's say, the United States or Western European governments that have affected population changes.
These are very long-term effects of the reorientation of the economy since the late 19th century, but they've become very intensified since the end of the Second World War. Population growth, the success of public health has allowed these populations to increase in number. And as I say, the tourist economy is a big force in all of these countries that has to be reckoned with. So you had a lot of people. You had sunning lizards, Northern European lizards lying in the sand, snoozing away. But you also had, for every one of them, you probably had 3 or 4 Sri Lankan or Indonesians, waiters, bartenders, hotel workers, sex workers, and so on.
So the West's influence has gone beyond the colonial to now the changing of the demographics in the countries.
But also,
Go ahead.
I mean, a lot of people have the business fishermen, you have to be close to the water to go out there to get fish, and a lot of things, in some area, a lot of, I guess, poor people live along the water, I guess.
That's right. That's the traditional location for fishermen. They would have
Okay, well, I'm sorry to say we're just about out of time. We're under a minute. So I just want to thank all of you for being here. I'm sure we could go at least another half hour or hour. Again, I think this is fascinating that there are so many stories behind the story of the tsunami. The history of the West in these places, the history of these places thousands of years before the West even came there, the conflicts in all these countries, civil wars in all these countries that we never hear about. So maybe, as Natalia said, there is going to be some positive that people will actually start to learn more about these countries from all of this.
Well, we start to see, after this big disaster, we see people, countries around the world come together to help and support each other.
Yes.
From
At the
All
same
right.
time, I want to thank the International Students Office of International Students and Scholars and the university community for their support.
Okay, well, thank you all for being here. Again, I'm sorry we're out of time. The vigil on Thursday, the 20th at 5 p.m., correct?
Yeah.
Where?
Old Brick.
Old Brick. All right, thank you for being with us on Live and Local. See you next time.
This thing about fishermen, you're absolutely correct.